The whole town told Noah Briggs the wood was ruined. Too dark, too cracked, too ugly for the new community porch. But Noah ran his hand along the black scar in that lightning-struck beam and said, "No, this is the part that survived. Well, now pull up a chair. Grandpa Ben here." Tonight's story comes from Cedar Hollow, Ohio, about a young builder, an old storm, and a piece of barnwood everybody wanted to hide. If you've ever felt like your scars made you less worthy, stay with me. This one might help you see yourself differently. Noah Briggs was 31 years old. He built fences, repaired porches, fixed roofs, and carried more lumber than most men carry worries. He was good with his hands. Quiet, steady, the kind of man folks called when something broke and they needed it done right. But Noah carried a mark people didn't always see. 3 years earlier, he'd lost his little contracting business after a bad partnership. His old buddy took money, left debts behind, and disappeared down I-71 like smoke. Noah paid what he could, sold his truck, moved back into the small house behind his mama's place. Folks didn't say much to his face, but small towns talk in low voices. Poor Noah. Got taken bad. Guess he wasn't as sharp as people thought. Noah heard enough. He stopped going to Friday fish fries, stopped staying after church, stopped looking people in the eye too long. He kept working, but he kept himself small, like a man trying to sand the scar off his own life. That spring, Cedar Hollow decided to rebuild the old community porch beside the town hall. It was where folks held summer concerts, lemonade stands, school raffles, and every kind of announcement from lost dogs to wedding dates. The porch had been standing since before I had grey in my beard, and that's saying something. But one hard storm finally broke the roofline and split the rail. The mayor wanted it rebuilt fast before Founders' Day. Noah got the job. He should have been proud. Instead, he looked nervous enough to swallow nails. At the lumberyard, everybody picked through clean boards straight, pale, easy. Then Noah saw a stack out back under a tarp. Old barn beams from a farm north of town. One beam was maple, thick and strong, but a black line ran down its center where lightning had struck it years before. The lumberman said, "That one, nah, scrap pile, looks rough." Noah stepped closer, ran his palm over the dark streak. The wood wasn't rotten, it wasn't weak, it had split once, healed around itself, and hardened. "Can I use it for the porch?" Noah asked. "If the town won't cover it, I'll take the cost out of my own labor." The lumberman laughed. "For the town porch? Man, folks'll roast you." Noah smiled a little, let him talk. "Now listen close, because this is where the story stopped being about wood." Noah brought that beam to the worksite, and by lunchtime half the town had an opinion. Mrs. Callahan from the bakery said, "Honey, that looks burned." A councilman frowned. "We want something nice, Noah, clean, presentable Jalen, a teenager from Maple Street who seemed to know every town project before the grown-ups finished arguing about it, leaned on his bike and said, 'Loki, that beam looks like it lost a fight with the sky.'" Noah chuckled, but his ears went red. The mayor pulled him aside. "You sure about this?" "Founders' Day photos go online. We don't want people thinking Cedar Hollow can't afford good wood." There it was, the fear. Not that the beam was weak, that people might see the scar. Noah looked at the black line, and for a moment he saw himself. The failed business, the whispered pity, the shame he kept trying to plane smooth. He almost said, "You're right." Almost then I walked over. I'd been watching from the shade with a cup of gas station coffee. "Noah," I said, "what do you see when you look at that beam?" He shrugged. "A problem, apparently, no," I said. "What do you see?" He was quiet a long time. Then he said, "Something that got hit hard and didn't quit." I nodded. "Then build with that." The mayor still didn't love it. That the beam was sound, the deadline was tight, and nobody had a better reason than fear. So he let it ride. Noah worked 3 days on that beam. He sanded it slow, not to erase the black line, just to make the surface honest. He sealed it with oil until the dark scar shone deep brown and black, like a river running through amber. He set it as the front header beam above the porch steps, the first thing people would see when they walked up. Folks muttered. Some laughed. One man said, "Bold choice, brother." Noah looked at the beam, then at the porch. "Quiet as ever," he said. "It's staying." That was the first time in years I heard steel in his voice. Founders Day morning arrived bright and warm, bunting on the rail, kids with sticky hands, a bluegrass band tuning under the new roof. Everybody gathered. The mayor gave a speech about tradition, history, community. Then someone asked about the scarred beam. The mayor hesitated. Noah stepped forward before fear could steal the moment. He didn't speak fancy. Noah wasn't built for fancy. He put one hand on that beam and said, "This wood came from a barn that got struck by lightning." Most folks called it ruined. He looked out at the crowd. "I know what that feels like." The town went quiet. Noah swallowed. 3 years ago, I lost my business, lost money, lost trust, lost a version of myself I thought I needed to be. I spent a long time trying to hide that. Figured if people saw the crack, they wouldn't trust the rest of me. He tapped the beam. But this wood taught me something. A scar don't always mean weakness. Sometimes it means the storm hit and you're still standing. Nobody moved. Even Jalen stopped chewing gum. Noah went on. So I left the line showing, not because damage is beautiful by itself, but because surviving it can be. For a second, there was only wind in the trees. Then Mrs. Callahan started clapping. Then the bound. Then half the town. Not loud at first, but real. After that day, people started calling it the lightning porch. Kids ran their fingers along the dark line and asked questions. Old men sat beneath it and talked about storms they'd lived through. A woman who'd survived cancer came one evening, touched the beam, and cried without hiding her face. A teenager who'd failed senior year told Noah, "I thought I was done. Maybe I'm not." Noah didn't become famous. He didn't get rich overnight. But he stopped shrinking. He went back to the fish fry. He looked people in the eye. He bought an old truck and painted his company name on the door again. Briggs Repair and Porch Work. Small letters, steady letters. One afternoon I found him tightening a rail on the lightning porch. "How's business?" I asked. "Growing," he said. "And the scar?" He smiled. "Still there." Bother you?" He looked up at that dark beam. "No, sir. It reminds me I'm not Scrap. So, dear listener, Noah's story ain't about a porch. It's about the marks we try to hide, the failure, the divorce, the job we lost, the year we wasted, the mistake we still replay at 2 a.m. Some folks will tell you to cover it up. Act perfect. Look polished. Pretend the storm never happened. But real strength doesn't come from looking untouched. Real strength comes from getting struck, getting split, and still holding weight. Your scar is not your whole story. It's just one dark line in the wood. And maybe, if you stop hiding it, that line can become the place where someone else finds hope. If this story found you tonight, like it. Subscribe to Grandpa Ben's Story Hour. Share it with someone who feels like damaged goods. And remember, you are not Scrap. You are still standing. Good night, my friends. Grandpa Ben, signing off.